Well, hello there. So it's a big welcome. A new podcast and some content that us at Chasetown Football Club are looking to roll out. We're going to call it the Scholars Spotlight. So first, we'd like to welcome Jamie Butch, who's our head of the Youth Development Programme. Hello, Jamie.
Evening, guys. How are you all?
All good. All good. I'd also like to welcome Jacob Webster. Jacob Webster's a Chasetown superfan who had some questions that we want to get him involved with. So, hello to you, Jacob.
Good evening, guys. How are you all?
All good.
All good, Jacob. Nice to meet you, mate.
So I promise I'm not going to make it too difficult, Jamie. I'll go with the first question, really. As head of the Youth Development Programme, I thought it'd be a brilliant place to start. We've got 3 tiers that nobody really understands externally. We've got, obviously, Chasetown, the first team. We've got the Youth Development Programme. And we've got the youth section. Can you just go through what defines those 3 steps?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go from the sort of grassroots up is probably the better way. So I think what everybody knows the club for is and I think this season, Ant and Jane, who run that section, I think they've got something like 46 teams. I think it is Reuben. So that section is purely participation, grassroots, boys, girls from, I think we're taking them in now from 4 or 5 years old, playing in mini kickers, all the way through to 16, 17-year-olds. And it's very much, I think, an absolute lifeblood asset of Chasetown Football Club for me. That is your community football at its very best. And probably, with parents, there's probably 1,500 to 2,000 people involved in that operation, isn't there, by the time dads, sisters. So, just on 45, 50, 46 teams alone. So the grassroots, they take care of all the mixed ability participation, boys, girls, which is really key. And I'm sure we'll come on to the facility development at some stage in this interview. But they are a key part of our club. And then at the top end, we, have the first team, our flagship team that everybody knows us and, has been there for many years, and your supporters and people like Jacob travel the length and breadth of the country watching us. And what we recognised, and probably this is where my role crossed when I arrived at the club. I've been working with the club for 2 years in a full-time role. I think quite a few of the supporters know now that I work for the FA. And I've been leading a national programme of investment coming into non-league clubs. And Chasetown was one of three or four clubs I was working with as part of a national pilot programme. And when I was doing that work, what we recognised was one of the areas the club didn't have was this ability to develop local talent. And it was actually the clubs themselves that recognised it. And what we recognised was we got players from the Chasetown community that were going off to play in many local non-league clubs who were 14, 16, 18, 20. And they're playing for Amesford, they're playing for Rushall, they're playing for Tamworth, they're coming up to Bolnea. And I think what we recognised as part of the new vision for the club about 3 years ago was, why aren't we developing players ourselves for our own club? And that was where youth development started. 12 months later, after that conversation, Mr. Jones, the new chairman by then, threw me a yarn and said, would I be interested in coming in and doing it? So away from my work, that was where Youth Development Programme was born.
Not like Steve at all, is it? Unbelievable. Okay, Jacob, what question did you have?
What inspired the creation of this youth programme, and how does it fit into the broader vision for the club's future?
Yeah, so brilliant, Jacob. So that follows on from, that sort of, we recognise if we want to grow and be this big club in terms of the non-league community, which, we know our aspirations are, and what we wanted to do was build a football club. And I think that's really important, and what I think sets us apart from quite a few others. We don't just want to build a first team that, we pile all our resources. I think everybody knows what's going on with the stadia at the moment and the 3G. And it's not just about the 3Gs, it's about the clubhouse, it's about the matchday experience. And this was the broader sort of development that we put this vision together. And I was working with the new board once Mick had handed over the club to this new board. So the youth development program wants to develop players. That is its prime objective. We want to develop local talent. First and foremost, we want to develop it for the first team, Jacob. Let's be clear about that. But in the non-league pathway, the pathway is not like an academy program in a pro club where the line is just linear. So what we're trying to do is set a vision where we want lads to become the best footballers they can be. So we want our under 12s at the moment, which is our youngest age. We would like our under 12s to go on and go in the pro game. You know, what better to see, you know, the Villa or the Albion or the Wolves, whoever it is, the Savlers, come and sign one of our under 12s and they go off and have a career. But likewise, the reality is our under 18s who played in the FA Youth Cup last week, we're quite upfront, Jacob, that if they're not in the pro game at 16, 17, 18, the honest reality is it's going to be difficult for them. The percentages are less than 1%, probably less than 0.5% of them becoming a pro footballer. So what the youth development program is doing at the top end is saying to these young boys, look, we will give you as professional coaching program as we can in an environment that will make you a better footballer, in a club that will look after you, because we want to build the club and we want to give them a real, you know, productive, positive football experience. At the same time, we're shouting what we call a dual career. And what we're saying, and I say this now as a parent of a lad who's in that under 18 program, he's just left school, he started his A-levels, that I think we have a duty of care to those young lads to say, look, the reality is, if you want to buy a car or you want to buy a house in 10 years' time, the reality is it probably won't come from football full-time. But why not be able to play football at a good level, be it step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, the Northern Prem, the National League, wherever that is, and at the same time, go and be qualified in your A-levels, go to university or be an apprentice or be an engineer and do what Docker does or do what Langy does or do what Rennie does, where actually they've had a great career on the field, you know, playing at a great level, but off the field, they're bright guys doing well in their own right. And that's exactly what we're trying to promote to our young boys in the pathway.
No, that's a great answer. And I think it kind of covers a little bit of the next question, really. And if you think from the perspective of a mom or a dad, nans or granddads, or even young kind of starlet players themselves, what would you say sets our youth development program apart from others in the region?
I think starting at the club, I think we have club buy-in. And one of the agreements I had with the chairman when I come in was I want it to be an investment program. I want the club to invest into it, and through the facilities and through some of the operational type stuff like kit, etc., the club actually financially invest in. So we're not here to fund the club. And I think I was quite keen on that. We've got to make it pay. We've got to be sustainable, like, you know, any club at this level. So I think that side of it, we are very integrated. I think we're integrated. My relationship with Swanee, the Gaff family, and Swanee go back a long time. But I think Swanee totally understands. I understand the challenges he's got because his job is to win games every week. But he also understands that we want to build a football credibility. And actually, having the best young players, and we played Walsall last week, is only going to help our relationships with pro clubs when we're competing at that level at 16, 17, as we are at 12 and 15. So I think there's that side of it. I think on the grass, I think our program is as good as anybody's, the quality of coaching, the relationship we have with the university. So yesterday, we finally managed to launch our sports injury clinic. So all our lads in the program get access to the injury and rehab unit at Wolverhampton Uni, which is where our base is on a Tuesday night. All the lads have access to analysis, the Huddle platform where they can do their own analysis, and the overall coaching, the quality of coaches we have, you know, people like Chris Slater, Matty Fright and Nathan Langby at the younger ages. And then we've got people like Craig Lee, myself at the older ages. So I think there's a multiple of things that probably set our program apart. The challenge is sort of keeping that going as we grow the program, and we're 12s, 15s, 16s, 18s and 23s this year. And then next year we'll have the two age groups in the middle that we're missing. So by next year, we'll have a full suite from under 12 to under 23s.
Wow, great. Jacob, I know you got another question, but before that, so how many kids does that cover? That sounds like a lot of.
Currently, we have 80 players in the system, Reuben, and then we'll add to that. So we'll be the best part of this time next year when we're complete on the pathway, because we wanted to build it up over the sort of 2-3 years. We're very conscious of building something so big too soon, and it's got to be sustainable. So that's the key thing for us. So we'll have about 110 players, and then we will be, at the moment, we've got 22 staff. 3/4 of those are coaching staff and on the grass. The 5 or 6 are people like Pete Bailey and the team and Johnny Harris and those guys behind the team who are helping us, which is, without the backbone, I always say, we can't go out on the grass and produce the players. So it's a fairly big operation, Reuben.
So you mentioned the dual career approach, and Jamie, how does that benefit a lot of the young players that are involved in the youth development program as well?
Yeah, well, the most important thing is they might not think it benefits, and it's very much probably the parents as much as the players, because they want to play football all the time. But I think what we do, and I think we are as a football club, I think we're a really responsible football club just by our commitment to the community, our stakeholder relationships with the local authorities and the Football Foundation, all that type of stuff. So as a football club, I think we're consistent to our values, aren't we, of what we're about. So in terms of the dual career, it's recognizing that you can have the best of both, and you can be good at, being an apprentice engineer, or you might be we've got quite a lot of lads doing like things like sparking and plumbing and things like that, going into trades. And we're saying that's brilliant. The hard challenge with it, Jacob, is recognizing getting up at 8 and finishing at 4. Then you've got to come in. We were in sometimes 3 times a week. So the under 18s, they train on a Monday, train on a Thursday, and if they've got a Wednesday night game, and then they might be selected for the reserves as well on a Saturday, it's a commitment. So it doesn't come easy. But you go and ask Chris Taylor, go and ask those boys. It's blinking hard work being a semi-pro footballer, because it's a lot of sacrifice on top of family commitments, professional commitment. But it's an absolute brilliant reward. And, we're trying to get boys ready for that environment. That's what we're here to do.
Okay. So what are the kind of key expectations that you've got for the players that are enrolled already and are going to enroll in the future?
So we want the players to be in that ability that are knocking on the door for professional football. That is as simple as that, So we want to create Chasetown. If you're not in a pro club in this region, if you're not in Walsall, Vale, Shrewsbury, that's realistically our pecking order. So, Villa are probably the top of the tree in the area. You've got the Wolves, the Albions, and then the Cobs, and then you're getting into the Shrewsburys, the Sadlers, the Vales, those sort of clubs, obviously a bit further afield, Derby and Forest the other way. But we want those boys to come into our football club. It's as simple as that. And what we've got to do is, and this is the thing about building a football club, we want a boy, whether he's coming out of Forest at 14 or the Sadlers at 16, to say, actually, that is a great place to go and play football. And it's not just the player, it's the parent. One of the challenges we do have is about what I call authenticity. I think football, and as somebody who's worked in it and lived in it and played in it for all my life, I don't know any different. We have a lot of what I would call BS in our game, and I think your viewers can work out what BS is. Don't need Einstein to work that out. And we have a lot of people selling dreams in football. I think Swanee and myself, if there's anything we have in common, we are probably down-to-earth guys who've played the game at a good level, been involved in the game, and we are honest and we really look after boys. I think we care about our players. And I think whether you are, little Slates in the 15s, you're Tom Walker in the 18s, or you're Jaden Campbell in the first team, I'd like to think that all of them would say that we try and look after the boys at the club, and we look after them, off the pitch as well as on the pitch. And that, I think, is really important, that we say to these boys, we want the best players, but we also want good characters and good eggs in our club. And I think we have those at every level. And that, I have to give credit to the first team. The first team have such good standards I know our boys have followed that, and I know their behaviours and the way they go about it are acknowledged by most people around our club, if not all of them.
Following on from that then, Jane, like the positive attitude around the club at the moment, how does the Chasetown board and the first team staff support and contribute to the overall success of the programme as well?
Yeah, no, so in terms of the board then, we are one of those integral pillars that Reuben started the conversation off with. What we recognised in the new era of Chasetown, and this is probably where, again, my work hat flips with my sort of volunteer as head of youth development, is there's sort of 3 or 4 key pillars to our club, isn't there? Our club model, and the youth development is at the core of that. So invested in finance, invested time, placing it, as one of those core pillars of our club is for me absolutely essential. So in terms of the board, for me, that's that. In terms of the first team, there's a few things that we've done. You're not in youth development, and I look at some of the players I've been involved with growing up now, and it takes time to develop young players. So I'm not going to come on here tonight and say we've got players in the first team, because after blinking 15 months of a youth development program, you haven't developed youth team players. You've probably brought them in from somewhere and put them in your first team. So at the moment, we're on that journey. We have a group of about 5 or 6 in the Resi group that we're really pushing on. So they now train full time with the first team. So we have sort of different stages of what I define success as. So we've got a couple of lads out on loan at the moment. Joe Perry is the obvious one at Stafford, and we have Sam, the keeper, out on loan at Great Worthy. Joe is doing really well. He's been out there for 2-3 months. We go up and watch him, we review him, and that's obviously all done with myself, Craig Glitter, who does the reserves, and Swanee and Jamie. So that's it. Then we've got the next group who are training with the first team all the time, and then we'll start looking, well, if they don't get in the first team, we'll get them out on loan, playing first team football. But then you've also got, so last week, it was interesting that everybody's on about the under-18 youth cup. Virtually, I think it was 14 out of the 17 that was changed are all 16 or 17. So they go again next year in next year's FA Youth Cup. So we've had probably 5 or 6 of them in that team playing reserve team football. And then likewise, we've had some of the 16 stepping up. So in terms of buy-in, if we don't get the buy-in of the old club, the first team staff, everybody, that pathway, that conveyor belt can't happen. Myself and Swanee spend a lot of time having conversations about what do we do with young players, where do we put them, how do we integrate them. Tuesday night, we have a games night program. So if there's no first team game, if there's no under-18 game, we start bringing teams in, and that's the plan in the future. When the pitch is not being used for a match tonight, let's get a team in. Maybe the lads who need minutes in the first team. Let's get the sort of 17 to 19, 20-year-old boys playing against men's senior teams. So the Darlistons of the world, we have Busloam coming on Saturday. We have no fixture. So there's all different ways that we integrate it into the programme.
That follows on nicely, actually, to the next question. I know in pre-season, the 18s and the 23s trained with the first team and were involved with not just the training, but all the whole pre-season fixtures. Have you seen the impact of that on the others as yet? Have you seen the difference that makes of them being integrated with the first teamers?
Yeah. So one of my sayings, Reuben, for any young player, and we've all been a young person, you have to give young players hope, and that's what I'm a big believer in this. And I say this to the board, I say this to Swanee. We've got to give them hope. We've also got to be honest with them, and without being brutal, we have to be honest with the boys now. What we did pre-season, there were certain sessions where we knew we could bring them together. So, one of them sessions was a physical session where on a Saturday morning, we all integrated, and it was brilliant. And I think, first team staff was, quite impressed with the physical abilities of the younger boys. We've done that in training sessions, and we've done that in games. But they've got to earn it as well. And we have a saying in our youth development program about earning the right. And I think we've got to be careful, because I think we live in an era, Reuben, where I think there's a sense of entitlement that the players think they should be given things, particularly young players. I have to manage parents and their expectations. And I think some parents don't realise the levels that our first team play at. I think that's difficult. I think the levels of non-league, certainly when I finished 15, 20 years ago, and when Swanee was playing, when, the us was playing, I think the levels are far higher. The boys are fitter than they've ever been. And if you can't run and you're not fit, you don't play first team football at step 3, step 4 level where we're aspiring. So I think it's really important that we do have that integration. We played at Gressley, we played over at Wolves Cazzies. We had those games where we mix it all up. That's brilliant. It's a great learning environment. But then the boys have to go back in their own backyard and do it on a Tuesday night away at Allend or, up at Stafford Town or, over at Bolmere an under-18 game. So all that is about giving experiences, giving variety to hopefully give them the better chance of becoming a senior player, hopefully at our club. But if not at our club, we'll encourage them to go off and play, first team football elsewhere.
That leads us nicely into the 8th question as well. So in terms of what sort of ways do you facilitate opportunities for younger players, such as loans, and then obviously our local clubs or engagement with the first team managers as well?
Yeah, so probably unusually for me, I'm probably one of the few people who's I'm probably connected in the non-league landscape because of my job and where I come from, what I've done previously. So through that, through Swanee particularly, and Jamie and some of our senior players, we're now sort of building a credibility. That will also goes both ways. The clubs have got to trust us that we've got good players. And so, the more we play against them and the more we have players integrating at senior level, the more likely we're going to get players out to better loans. But there's also got to be a right time for a player to go out on loan. Just like you see at the Villa or the Albion or the Wolves, whoever you follow, sometimes going out and playing first team football is not right for every player. And we're sort of saying that, so we might have a player who is, small in his physicality, he's behind on his physical maturation. So we're saying actually going out to step 6 would not be right for them. He's going to be kicked all over the park. He's going to be smashed up. Actually, at the moment, he needs to stay in our program and work with Craig and the reserves and be around the training program. Whereas somebody like Pezza's come out of Walsall as a scholar. He's physically developed. He now needs to go and play minutes. So between us, we've found the right club for him. The next challenge for Pez is will get back into our first team. And if he doesn't try and get in our first team for whatever reason, that might be somebody's playing well. That might be he's not quite ready in terms of the gaffer's size. We'll then place him out on loan. But does he go to a step 5 club or a club that's competing at the next level of the pyramid? So there's a lot of things and thoughts have to go in. I think people throw it out willingly. You just throw a player out on loan. But actually, if you're doing a good team in step 5, why do you want a player on loan? Because you've got 14 good players already. So, we have to think about where they go and is it right for them? And also, are they being looked after as well? Their welfare is what we've got to look after as well as their football ability.
I think what's nice about that story, just listening to it from an independent, is it feels like everybody's completely viewed as an individual. And it's not just a mass market approach. Everybody's got their own unique skills, their own unique personalities, and we can answer to that. And that's special for a club our size.
The flip side to that, though, Reuben, is, and this is one of our sort of in our DNA, we will sacrifice results to develop the players. So, for example, we will now take out some of our 18s, our older under 18s, from the under 18s because they'll go and play in reserves. Now, if they're playing for the reserves on a Saturday, we're not going to make them play on a Monday night because that will open the door for an under 16. So if we've got the left winger, he's gone and played on a Saturday in our 23s game, then on the Monday night, we'll go and find the next young winger coming through and they'll get the opportunity. And that's how doors open and that's how, you take advantage of opportunity. So does that mean that we may lose the game because we're playing a younger lad who might not be quite ready? Well, if that's the case, so be it. But you know what? That'll make him a better player over the long term. So if we want to win the league, I'd be quite confident our under 18s could go close. And I think they will go close. I'm more bothered about getting them 12 months into their development and where do they look this time next year? And actually, yes, they might play 18s, but the one play 18s, so we win the league, they'll only play 18s if it's right for them as an individual player.
No, that makes complete sense. This is the fun bit now, really, and something you can sound the trumpet to. Have you got a couple of success stories and players that have moved through the youth development program, things that you're really proud of? I remember last year a beautiful moment. You might not mention this one. Hopefully, you would have. And it was one of the young ones that had been through the development program and ended up at a Premiership club. Have you got any other stories like that we've involved in the club?
Yeah, Reuben, you remember that because we spoke about it at the celebration night, didn't we? The presentation night. So, yeah, but the ironic thing about that is that was one of our analysis guys. So that wasn't even a player. So, but that is exactly what we are, aren't we? We're a breeding ground for young people, and let's develop local young people. So through the partnership, David, he's at West Ham now. So ironically, he's up at the universities tonight, where I'll go and see him in a bit, and he's doing some work with the students on analysis. But yeah, David went off, and for us, that is of course a success story because he spent last year working with our players. That helped him get it on his CV to get this opportunity he's got at West Ham, and by his own admission, without Chasetown, he doesn't get that stepping stone of real life work experience. So a good example on the pitch. We have a couple. We have Nunny and Foxy were on the bench last week or the week before, was it? From the Resi group. Bish has been close. Pez has been involved. So there are people going close. Then we've got a couple of the younger boys who've played. So we've had young Rajan and Nico going into Tom Nicklin going from 18s, and they're young going into the reserves. And then we've had 4 or 5 of the reserve lads playing at week in, week out in the reserves. We've had one lad, Joey Buckley's come back from injury this year, was a real plus for us. He's a new lad coming from another club, and he's doing well, as are 2 or 3 of the others. So in terms of individuals, I'd probably like to stick out 1 or 2. At the bottom end, we've got about 3 lads on trial at pro clubs at the moment, and our under-12s, I've watched our under-12s on Saturday, and they are outstanding. They are as good group, probably outside of pro football. I would confidently say they will go and compete in terms of the way they play, what they do with the bottom end academy systems, what we call Cat 3s in the academy program, EPPP. And that's exactly the bar we want to mention. And then, I'll go and watch the 15s, and the 15s go and beat a team who haven't lost a game in 2 to 3 years. So Chris Slater's under 15 team, who's been together for a while, but they've added to it since they come into the youth development program. Only just started this season with us, and they beat top of the league on Saturday. So there's a lot of individuals doing well within that, but also I'll also shout out whilst we're on about it, the coaches as well, because without the players, without the good coaches, players don't develop, and we've got an absolute high quality set of coaches working for our club in a voluntary capacity, 3-4 times a week in some cases, and it's a hell of a commitment. So I'll use this opportunity to say thanks to them, because without them, we don't have youth development program.
No, props. So I think it's easy to forget. We're only 18 months in, right? So
yeah, 15 months, Rube. I'll pull you back on that one.
Wow, 15 months. I mean, so it was an incredible jump.
Well, yeah, 18 months ago, I first met Steve. Yeah, I came in about the March, and then we started it in the summer last year. So yeah, and it does take time, doesn't it? But we all want it to happen yesterday.
So from this end, Jamie, how, from the Chasetown's obviously perspective as well, what are the key indicators of success for the program in terms of building that sustainability for the club? So from the upward spiral,
making it financially viable is key. So yes, the club do invest, but we also need other people to invest in terms of the financial sustainability of the model. Parents pay subs, and then the way we do our model is the older you get, the less you pay once you get to sort of 18 to 23s, and then it becomes obviously, integrated into the senior football club model. So in terms of that, and I will put out tonight, we do need people to come and support us, local sponsors, and we get some great support, and all the board are on board with us through all their companies, but also it's important we have others. in terms of success on the field, Jacob, the first and foremost is we want players to play for our first team. And that's the number one, but probably the hardest challenge. That's all. 2, they go and leave us to play senior football elsewhere in the non-league pyramid. That might be above us. That might be below us. It might be around us. And we want them to carry on playing, wherever they go. So some players, unfortunately, and every year we have to do a retain and release program. So we don't guarantee any player that they got the opportunity to come back year on year. They have to earn their place for the following year. Now, for some people, we have to have that difficult conversation. And it's the worst thing about the job is saying that, thanks, but you're not going to make it through to the next phase. And so for us, keep playing, keep developing yourself, go away and prove us wrong. So we have no issue with that. And then the other one is we'd love to see the younger players go off to pro clubs, because we know if they go into a pro club, so if they go off to leave Chasetown and go to the Baggies, if they get released at 16, at 18, at 21, if they've had a good experience, they'll come back, won't they? Of course it will. You know what I mean? That's your club. It's a club that's helped you. And then the other one is developing just good young people who are successful in their own professional career and are good eggs, we call them. And that for us is part of success. And I know our club board really believe having good people, good eggs around our football clubs is part of it. And we have good people at Chasetown, Jacob. You know that as much as anybody. We are sometimes, I think, too friendly club. I think we're the most lovely club. I think everybody likes us. And I think part of what me and Swanee are doing on the pitch is trying to be a bit more hard-nosed about our football and try and build that football credibility. So absolutely, let's keep that lovely feel, that friendliness, because everybody loves Chasetown. We have a good following. We have a great fan base. But also, that success also, we want it to be on the pitch. Let's get promoted in the first team. Let's develop more players. Let's attract more, players into pro clubs and vice versa, all that.
Okay, again, that's fantastic. Thanks for that, Jamie. Last question, because I know you've got things to do and places to go. Jacob's obviously a super fan. Get up there, you scholars. How can someone like Jacob or somebody listening along or any of our fans who come to the match day experience, how can they get more involved or support the youth development program? How can they do it?
Okay, multiple of ways. So first and foremost, obviously the Scholars Ground 3G, there'll be a lot of games coming up, won't there? So just generally support, if you're in the local community and you've got nothing on, the floodlights are on, by and large, come down and support the club, whoever's playing, first team, resis, 18, 16. We're always looking for the sponsors, people who've got the local businesses locally, fantastic, get involved. We're always looking for volunteers. So, for example, 18s and 23s, Reuben, as you well know, it is difficult sometimes. We've got the gate to manage, we need a little bit of stewarding. There's all sorts of stuff where, if you want to put a little bit something back into our club, and that might not be youth development, by the way, that's the wider club will find something for you. If you're willing to volunteer, I'm sure there's a role somewhere in our club for you that we can do. And then I think the other one, I think, is generally just coming behind the lads and supporting us and really encouraging them and making that place. Because I think, Jacob, the one thing I said when I walked through the door 4 years ago and met Big Joy and we sat down about how do we take this club forward? I think it become a little bit stale by Mick's own admission. Chasetown had gone off those years of the FA Cup glories and it lost it needed some revigoration. The one thing that I stand by with Mick Joyner was it was a lovely club. You were made to feel welcome. And I think what we've done is we've kept that and we now want to build on it. And we've got this lovely venue, this fantastic facility. But the facility alone won't get us success. We've got to make sure we get our people behind us. And people like you and the supporters, Jacob, are probably more important than anybody. So, get behind us, support us, support the first team. I think the more we stay on the same page, the more chance we've got success across the whole of the club.
Yeah, man.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic, Jamie. Thanks for giving us some of your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your guys as well. Yeah, Reuben, you, the media team, Pete, all the team behind the scenes. That look, we just do the stuff on the grass. I know it's the important stuff where it happens, but without the backbone, as I say, the whole thing doesn't function the way it does. So thanks for your help and up the Scholars.
Thanks for listening to Scholars Spotlight. Our next pod is going to be with our chubby chairman, Steve Jones. So we'll see you soon. Thanks, Jacob. Thanks, Jamie. Thank you.